So thank you very much for inviting a farmer among you. I'm Kristien de Boodt and I am from the plukboerderij of Schelle. I just became a farmer 4 years ago, and before that I had a completely different career. My farm is not a classical farm. My farm is a CSA initiative. And maybe CSA sounds Chinese to you. Well, it's not Chinese, it's English. And it stands for Community Supported Agriculture. We tried to translate it in Dutch, but we didn't find any as catchy as CSA. So even in Flemish, in Flanders, we call it CSA initiatives. So what the CSA initiative is, I would like to explain you with my farm as an example. So the plukboerderij of Schelle, in fact, means the picking farm of Schelle. And Schelle is a village 10 kilometers south of Antwerp, direction of Brussels. So picking means that you go and harvest yourself in my farm. And I see you thinking, oh, we know this. You go on a Sunday afternoon with your children and you pick some fruits. And then you, while checking out, you go and pay and you go home. Well, that's not how my farm operates. In my farm, people check in at the beginning of the season. And they do this by paying a harvest share. They pay the harvest share in February and March, and then they start harvesting from April on to the next year. Since they have paid already everything, they can come whenever they like. So paying a harvest share gives them the right to harvest organic vegetables and fruits, enjoy the life in nature on my farm, and participate in community activities. We have different roles in the farm. Me as a farmer, I must produce sufficient vegetables and fruits for my shareholders, and my shareholders need to harvest. And they can do that 7 to 7, even in weekends, because they've paid already. And now you wonder, how do they know what they can harvest? Well, we have different ways to communicate. Oh, I'm too close? Oh, okay, fine. Easier. So, how do I know, how do they know what they can harvest? Well, it's very easy. We have different ways to communicate. You see on the first picture there is a red flag. Red flag means you can harvest what you consume freshly with the members of your family between this moment and the next time you will come to harvest. So if you come daily, you just take that one lettuce you will eat today. But if you come only once a week, you harvest for a whole week. And then I see you wondering, oh, but how do I know that people don't take too much? And that's a question that people often ask me. Well, the answer is very simple. I don't know if they take too much or too little. Can you imagine what it would cost me if I have to control this? Then we come back to my initial example of picking farm. I need someone to be at the counter to wait what people take to pay. And if it needs to be 7 and 7, I think I need to employ 2 more people to control all this. So no, it's a system and it's based on trust. So we have to build trust, and partially because participants in this type of farm, somehow they know that the system won't last if they don't play the game correctly. That's one thing. But the other way to build trust is to involve them in the management of the farm and to have common activities to build really a community. And that is what we do. The involvement of the shareholders in the farm is really of the type of direct democracy. You see my shareholders on this picture, and every year we come together and we fix the amount of the share, for instance, the amount of the numbers of families participating in the farm. And this is possible because I do an open accountability. People know what my costs are and they know what I earn. And just to give you the example of the evolution of the harvest share in my farm, I started in 2010. And of course, the concept was not well known in Flanders. So I had 30 families. I wanted to start small. And we had a harvest share up to the amount of 160 for an adult person and 40 for children in different ages. And then you see how it evolved. From 160 in 2013, we went to 245, and it was decided by the community because they saw that I didn't earn enough money. Of course, the first year, we were very little families in the system, and this was normal, and I knew. But then from the second, third year on, people started to say, hey, this is not correct for you. And you see between 2011 and 2012, we went from 198 to 245 in 1 year, which is a raise of 20%. And this was really out of solidarity for me, and because they saw that the system works and they had good products. So what do they get? They get a lot, 70 different vegetable herbs. They get fruits. But also we do other activities. For instance, they can have eggs, and other local producers come to my farm with goat cheese, honey, fruit juice, to also sell it to my members of my farm. We have a flower field. We purchase common organic meat, and so on and so on. There are so many possibilities that start once you really have a community. So we try to connect the community to the farm, and then you see that this solidarity between community and farmer begins to play. So people harvest whenever they like, but we also do activities of harvesting the first strawberries together. We shell peas together because it's such a boring work. We do working days once in a while, but it's not compulsory. Of course, we have an end of summer party. We do a monthly cooking workshop, and so on and so on. And of course, the most important, our yearly evaluation and planning session. So community-supported agriculture can be defined, and it was defined by urgency, as a partnership between a farmer and consumers where risks and returns of the farm are shared. And returns sharing is never an issue. The more you produce, the happier people are. And it's clear that in my farm, everything that is produced is owned by my shareholders. So it's not when I have a good harvest that all of a sudden you will see out on the street a board like lettuce for sale. No. If I sell to third persons, then only when my shareholders give me the permission to do so, because there is too much. Now, sharing risks is a different thing, because if the harvest is not good, it's also the shareholders who are part of the calamity, because they have paid from the beginning of the season. And that was my working capital, so I have used this capital. I cannot return it to them. Of course, risks are never a good thing. So what we try to do is have a very large diversity of vegetables. And I told you I have 70 different vegetables in my garden throughout the year, the current and the forgotten vegetables. So our system of CSA is based on sustainable practices. We have a small-scale agriculture. I personally work on 1 hectare of land, because land in Belgium and Flanders is very hard to find. Especially, as I told you, I'm between Antwerp and Brussels. It's a very urbanized region. It is perfect for a CSA initiative, but land is very expensive. We also work in an organic and ecological way, and in Flanders we insist on this. And of course, because the community is so close, we have all this transport of food is reduced. We lose a lot of second-hand materials, You see, this is my old McCormick tractor who has just the same age as myself. And they call it an old-timer. I hope it doesn't apply to me. And we want to have an economic viable system. This is also very important. We don't want to live from subsidies. We want to gain a fair loan with our products and work. 2 minutes more. Since I'm in Greece, I just showed this. I also experiment with a donkey. There are a lot of donkeys in Greece. So my donkey is helping me out with weeding of the field. What the shareholders appreciate most is freshness of products, diversity, the absence of any chemicals and pesticides, good taste and healthiness, and most of all, education of their children, the contact with nature, animals, and so on. And what I like most is that there is so much less spilling of food, because people really take a lot of food that they would never take in a supermarket. So in Belgium, we got together in a CSA network in 2011. The first CSA started in 2007. I was the third one in 2010. In 2011, we created the network, and in 2013, we were 15 CSAs, and there are 3 in creation. And there is so many people getting involved in this in Belgium, and it's really a fantastic idea. What is, we have 2 types of CSAs in Belgium. It's the self-harvesting, the system I explained to you, and you also have the vegetable and fruit basket system. And why is this? Well, you need to be with your farm in the neighborhood of an urban city. And if you are not in that neighborhood, and even if Belgium is very urbanized, there are still places where you are far enough from a city center, then it might be more appropriate to bring your vegetables closer to urban cities. And that is done. Nevertheless, the basic idea of paying your harvest share remains the same for all of us. So the purpose of our network in Flanders is to promote the concept of CSA farms, to exchange information, to do technical support to one another, and political lobby, especially on the land issue, which is very important and a difficult issue in Belgium. And more we have sub-regional collaboration. We do common purchases, we exchange machinery use, we coach starters, and we developed, for instance, a starter brochure for newcomers in Flanders. So maybe just to end my presentation, the European Urgency Network made a handbook on community-supported agriculture, and it's very interesting. It's about different experiences. I will skip a few parts. It's about problems and the benefits and risks. There are different experiences in different countries, and also in Greece. In Greece in 2012, 13 CSA also started to take foot on the ground. And according to the source of Dio, there are 2 CSAs in Attica and 2 in the Peloponnesos. So I think that in Flanders anyway, CSA is really booming business. It gives new farmers an opportunity to start farming, even if you don't come from a farmer family. The major issue is to access land, but most of us have only 1 or 2 hectares, and this is really feasible. So, and nowadays we have so much publicity, also in Flanders, we come so often on television, that I think that in the future, CSA will not just be in big urban centers as it is now today, because you have a progressive middle class. But for the future, I will see that even any provincial town in Flanders will love to have its CSA in the neighborhood. So there is a tremendous economical potential. And I think that is a fantastic news in a time where we are only talking about closing down farms in the classical agriculture. Thank you.